Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome. We got a special guest on here today with us. Super excited to have Wolves at my door. When did we first meet? 2012, 2013?
Yeah, PAX East, I think 2013, I would say.
2013. You were on one of my early interview shows back in the day. We talked about your origin story, but Wolves at my door on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. What's been going on with you? What have you been up to, man?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I have been I've been streaming on a schedule here with some words of encouragement from you yourself. Helped me out with putting together some of the times and trying to stick to that, because interestingly enough, when I started streaming, I actually was doing 7 to midnight every time I streamed. It wasn't even like a debate or a question, because I was actually handcuffed with my real career job at the time. So it actually forced me into a schedule, which it worked so well. And then went full-time streaming. I started streaming in the morning. And then it just kind of got away from me. And then I started to basically be like, hey, I'm around, every day. Maybe we'll pop on at this time, check my Twitter. And, it gets a little wishy-washy there. But yeah, you've encouraged me to get back into a schedule. So I've been doing that. Just got back from New Orleans, like we were just talking about. Obviously getting over the holidays, and yeah, that's basically it.
So I'm gonna in the intro I talked about how you started out as a graphic designer. So when you were working as a graphic designer, Jay did a lot of covers for a lot of books. Super talented artistically, and so you were doing that. And then what made, just to give people like a little speed up, what made you want to start streaming?
Well, I was definitely influenced because at that time I was starting to watch YouTube and watching content creators and figuring all that stuff out that even existed. And then P00, who was a really big Minecraft YouTuber at the time, encouraged me to stream one day after I did some graphic design for him. And yeah, I don't know. It always obviously appealed to me to play video games and build a community and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I gave it a go, and once I started getting very much into the stream, it made my real life job seem a lot worse. Even though it was like a good job, it was fine. It was graphic design. It's what I wanted to do ever since I was a kid. I always say it's always what I wanted to do, but it's weird because this wasn't even a career when I was a kid, so I didn't look to do something like this, but since the opportunity presented itself and it was going pretty well, the company that I was with actually started dropping off like huge sections of the company. So yeah, my section got completely cut, and yeah, it was just like a perfect storm type thing, and just turned it on to full time at the moment.
So I want to double back real quick. So B-Dub's, really entertaining content creator, and you said you did graphic design for him. How did that happen?
Yeah, so this is something I get asked a lot, like how, because everybody wants to get in that door, right? You want to somehow find an opening to maybe a connection, because a lot of this, whether you like it or not, it's kind of who you know, and a lot of bit of networking and working with other people. I mean, obviously people can do it on their own and stuff, but it's a huge like stepping stone to starting. And yeah, it's a big question I always get. So what happened was, I was a huge fan of B-Dubs. I created fan art of him, and I put the fan art on the Minecraft Reddit. Minecraft was like this community of Minecrafters at the time, still going actually. But yeah, I put the fan art on Minecraft Reddit, and it got some traction, not only from other Minecrafters, but B-Dubs himself. And he actually asked for like a bigger size for his desktop. So that's kind of how we started talking.
And then roughly what year was that? You remember?
That was 2000, probably like 13 or 12, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, 12, probably 12 or 13. Yeah, and like fast forward a month or two after, he asked me for the bigger size, and then he just basically said, hey, man, you want to do my YouTube? And I just basically rebranded his YouTube, did him some thumbnails, and continued with the thumbnails, which opened the, conversation dialogue, because it was almost like a weekly thing. And And yeah, then it turned into like, hey, have you ever tried streaming? And I was like, no. And then he was like, well, I kind of wanted to try CS. So I know you play CS. So let's play CS. And then we did. And I streamed and he tweeted it out. And that's kind of where it got started.
But initially, so you did the fan art, like, because you're a very genuine individual. Like, you did the fan art with, like, you just wanted to do it because you're good at graphic design and you liked watching his content. It wasn't like you didn't have any expectations of what was going to happen.
No, not, you know how like when you're watching someone for almost a year, you're not thinking I'm going to post this fan art and he's going to be like, hey Jay, what's up, man? Like, love you. It's not, I didn't think, I wasn't on that at all. I actually created fan art of almost all the other Minecrackers as well. It's actually still on my YouTube channel. Funny enough, if you sort by like oldest, you can actually see speed art of the fan art that actually opened the door for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it would be like speed art for BOO?
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, if you filter the videos by oldest, it's literally my first 15 videos are all speed arts of like the different Minecrackers. Actually, one of Northern Lion on there.
Oh, you did? I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, like 5-6 years ago. I mean, looking back, it's not the best, but yeah, I actually used to it's terrible, but some of those I recorded at my job on Photoshop, which is bad. It's bad, but there was times of downtime, and it is what it is.
Hey, nothing wrong with double dipping, man, But
yeah, that's right.
All right, so that was kind of like, and I think that's an interesting perspective. So you essentially didn't necessarily start from zero, because of you had a friendship with B-Dubs. He kind of introduced you, which is a unique route to take for sure, especially for your first stream. So in terms of, before we jump into that, I just have a question for you. I'm not going to give my opinion. I just want to hear your opinion. What's your opinion on people doing art for free to get started?
Well, I had to do it, so I'm for it to a certain degree. I just never think, you either do something for full, as a graphic designer, I've always looked at it as you either do something for full price or you do it for free. Just never do it for cheap.
Okay.
Because then, basically what happens is once you set a price, that's what you're worth, and that's what they're gonna look at you as, and you got to be confident in your price. And here's the thing: if you're not confident in a price, and you're not confident, like, hey, I'm worth this much, this logo is gonna cost this much, then maybe if you're friendly with someone, then yeah, do it for free, because that person might be able to give you some exposure. And I know there's a very bad aura around that. Because people have exposed other people being like, hey, do this for me and I'll give you exposure. And it's kind of gotten a bad rep. But honestly, it's how I got to where I am. I didn't charge him for fan art. I honestly, in the beginning, was like trying to not charge him for anything, but he obviously wouldn't have it. But like, no, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I just think it has a bad rep recently.
Okay, because that's interesting from you. Like, you're an actual artist who's done that stuff, and I didn't know the whole inside story behind it, but it's always a point of contention, where it's like, all right, if you haven't done anything and you want to charge for it, okay, but for you, like, I don't know, what if you would have charged for that? I don't know. What if you never would have done it? I don't know. But it's just interesting to hear an artist's perspective, because I don't want to give my perspective on that because I've already talked about it. All right, so you get started, you do your first stream, and then, like, did you get bit by the bug and you're like, I want to keep this thing going? Or
yeah. So I mean, I don't know how nervous everybody is before their first stream, but like you were saying, it's a little bit of a weird situation in my stance. In like, I kind of had a stepping stone, a little bit of a push. So like, my first stream, I had like 50 something people, maybe almost 100. Which like is a bit crazy as your first stream. I don't know how to do it. I have no idea how to do this. I just bought this Yeti mic for like $50 and this webcam for like 60, and here we go. And yeah, I mean, when you just start streaming, I fired it up and just played with B-Dubs and some friends. It wasn't like, I'm streaming. Like, I wasn't much interaction. Like, there was things going on, but it was just a bit overwhelming. But yeah, it was nerve-wracking in the beginning, which I'm assuming some people get that anyway, even though, if you're coming into maybe you know, a baseline of, you know, 0 to 5 viewers. I'm sure people still feel that in the beginning. But yeah, right when it started to flow and like a couple days in, I figured I could, you know, get the hang of it. But it took a while.
Okay,
honestly.
So we're talking your first stream's probably what, end of 20, somewhere in 2013.
Yeah, 2013.
Okay.
For sure.
So let's fast forward to modern day in terms of, so now we're 2019. Over the past 5 to 6 years, you've been streaming, making videos on YouTube. What do you think are some big takeaways of stuff that you've done well and some things that you maybe, you know, made a mistake, not mistake, but something you learned from over, you know, looking back on those past few years?
I think some of the mistakes goes back to what we were talking in the beginning about dropping a schedule. And I wouldn't say I became content of where I was, but it's hard, man. Like when you find like a groove in streaming or in any profession ever, basically, it's hard to shake that. And, you know, what came with that was dropping a schedule, you know, just kind of being more all over the place with my streams and stuff like that. I feel like doesn't get you where you want to be.
I'm gonna ask you a tough question. Do you feel like you were more productive on a stream and content creation side when you had the full-time job than now?
Yes.
And so like walk me through one of your days. So cause you had to commute what, hour and a half, more than that?
Yeah, hour and a half on a good day with no delays.
Okay.
So it was an hour and a half there. You know, I would get there for 9. It was a 9 to 5 job straight up.
Okay.
And an hour and a half home. So I would get home at like 6:30ish.
Mm-hmm.
I would start my stream at 7 and I would go to midnight and then wake up the next day at like 6:30 or 7 and then do it all over again. So it was insane. Like when I look back on it, I don't really understand how I was doing it, but that's just like going back to what you asked. It's like that's why it's so easy for me to answer that, because there wasn't even a question in my head. I got home and I streamed. Like that was it. Like that's what I wanted to do. And that was at the time 100% my passion. It was like I said, it was kind of sucking the passion out of the graphic design job because I was starting to shift all my focus to it. And yeah, it was like, you know, there was no holdups. There was no, oh, I didn't eat dinner yet. I can't start. There was nothing. It was, I'm going.
Well,
it's 7
I think it brings up an interesting conversation that a lot of people don't talk about, is that when you go from a structured environment to essentially being your own boss, there's no manual, there's no like rule book. It's like you kind of got to figure it out. So were you doing that 5 days a week? So were you streaming on the weekends too back then?
Yeah, I was streaming on the weekends as well. Yeah.
All right. So roughly when did you leave your job? What year? Or when did that shut down?
I think that was like 2014 or 15, probably 15, probably early 15.
2015. And so then talk to me from like 2015 to now. So you said things kind of slowly shifted. Your schedule moved around a lot. And then because, you know, Jay and our friends, you know, we met at PAX. He's been to my house. We talk a lot. You know, it's kind of like you said, it's just like, it's good to have people in the business that you can bounce ideas off of. But so you're at a point now when you said, all right, hey, I want to change things, or I want to spark and change things. What sparked that for you?
So when I went full time, I was like, well, now I'm full time, right? I'm not, I wake up normally at 6:37, go to work, and now I don't do that. So I'm trying to fill that void a little bit. Looking back on it, should I have just maybe stuck it out and maybe just continued and go hard on the night streams and start at 7 anyway? Looking back on it, it probably would have benefited me. But what I did was I actually started streaming at like 10:30 in the morning. I was watching a lot of Tim the Tatman at the time, and he would do this thing where he did a morning stream and a night stream, which he actually still does. And I just thought that was cool. You know, you wake up, you get on stream, you have your coffee, you know, you hang out, you play some games. I just thought that was a cool like thing. And I was like, if now I'm full time, I can do it. I could never do this before. And honestly, I think that's kind of what shook it a little bit, like started to, you know, shake it up where I probably shouldn't have. But that's, you know, again, years and years ago looking back. But it, you know, I say that, but like the Counter-Strike times and that time was all good. It was all very good. It was just, I think it started to affect me once I started to get away from the schedule, like I said, which I'm assuming was like probably a year or so into the full-time type thing.
One of the
And fun fact, I used to play Counter-Strike at 10 in the morning. And this is when I first started talking with my now girlfriend who I live with, Kate. She used to wake up at 6:30 California time to play with me at 7 a.m. Counter-Strike almost every day, which is insane. It's ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, so you touched on it. So, I mean, we won't get too deep because I know it's like, it's personal, but essentially you met, you're pretty serious with your girlfriend. Can you talk about, like, she lived in California, you live on the East Coast in New Jersey. Like, so you met your girlfriend, your serious girlfriend through Twitch. Can you just talk, like, give people a quick update how that happened?
Yeah, real quick. It was honestly back to Tim the Tatman stream. It was at the time where I was watching a lot of him when I started to make that transition to full time. And I was a mod in Tim's stream, and she was also a mod. And I just saw her in chat one day, and her name was Kate Edge, and I was straight edge. I don't partake in drugs, alcohol, whatever. At the time, I really symbolized with it. So I saw that, and I was like, oh, maybe she's straight edge or whatever. And I clicked her name, and I was like, oh, she's cute, followed her. And then one day I rated her, and then I rated her like 2 or 3 times. And I was like, please notice me already.
Just a heads up for if someone doesn't have context, a raid on Twitch is when you, at the end of your show, you send your audience to another channel. Just in case people don't know the context. I know people people listen to this podcast and only watch YouTube. All right, so you did that a couple times, and then you guys just started to become friends.
Yeah, she finally noticed me, and then we started to talk after that, and she started waking up at 6:30 in the morning to play Counter-Strike with me.
And fast forward a couple years later, now you guys been dating for a while now, right?
Yeah. We were going back and forth from New Jersey to California while she was still in school at Fresno State, and once she graduated, we drove her Ford Escape all the way from California across the country to New Jersey, and she's been here ever since. And that's actually when we stopped and hung out with Dan in Michigan.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. That Twitch has had such a profound impact, on your life, even outside of streaming. So, okay, so now we're back to modern day. And what's your focus now in terms of, so I know, in the new year you started to schedule. Tell me about the schedule, how it's been going, how you've been internalizing and processing it behind the scenes and what you've seen.
Yeah, so I've been going 2 to 7, essentially, 5 days. I used to go 6 days a week. I would only ever take 1 day off a week, and now I'm starting to take 2 days off, which I haven't done much because, again, with the holidays, everything has just been so conjumbled. And especially going to New Orleans, I feel bad that I took a couple days off, so then I, don't take any days off. So it's one of those things where I haven't fleshed it out completely. Early stages, early reaction to the 2 to 7, I still will forever look at myself and think of myself as a night streamer. I stay up late. I stay up till 2 a.m. I'm not a morning person. That's just how I'm wired. I've been wired like that forever. So to me, I'm a night stream guy. And there's things in me that want to switch it back or maybe do a morning and a night stream type thing. I don't know yet. But
so if you're self-aware and kind of know your DNA to know that you're kind of a night person, what do you think's holding you back from sliding or moving to a night schedule?
Kate and her work schedule. She works 9 to 5 and gets home at like 5:30. So, I try to do the 2 to 7 so I could stop. We could eat dinner, hang out, watch a show, and I don't know. It's tough, man. Like I want to spend as much time as I can with Kate, and I also want to commit and do everything I can to the stream. It's almost having your cake and eating it too type thing. It's unfortunate because if I look at a night stream, then we're just complete opposite schedules. So yeah, it's a tough balance.
I think it's an interesting conversation because it's, sometimes people look at like a streamer or YouTuber and you're like, oh, that's all they do is, stream and create content. But like you have a life, you have a girlfriend, you have stuff you have to manage. And it's an interesting conversation and on an individual basis, what works for you and your relationship. And, and part of it's like figuring it out, man. And I think that's the fun thing about, where you and I are at, we're just trying to figure it out. And like some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. But that's interesting to hear that, that you say that internally that you're wired that way. And you know, that's how you started out. That's cool. So all right, so that's your schedule now. What have you been playing lately? What was the community reaction? Because that's another thing I want to talk about. Like we'll talk about the community in a second, but what was the community reaction when you dropped the new schedule?
I think, you know, good and bad, you know, oh, I'll never be able to watch the stream again. You know, oh, this is perfect. I'm in Europe and this is like literally in my wheelhouse. So, you know, obviously half and half almost. But yeah, it's been cool. Like I've been doing Rocket League every single day. Kind of wanted to commit to a game because I found when my stream was most successful is when I have at least one main game, and then I've always been variety, like at least sprinkling in variety. Like I love playing different new indie games or story or whatever, like sports games.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty much as variety as you can go. I have no limitations on what games I want to play. So I like having, like I've looked back and my most successful times was when I had a main game and a side game. So I've been trying to get back to that because there was honestly probably about 6 months, 7 months where I didn't even have a main game, and it was just, well, let's look at Steam and what's jumping out at me today, which by the way is insanely stressful and terrible.
Is what game selection or Steam?
Game selection? Yeah, especially when you go day to day and you're just like, oh, wake up and it's like, well, what are we gonna do? I don't know.
And you say you had a main game in the past. Tell everyone, like, what was your main?
Yeah. Main game was definitely Counter-Strike when I started, and it's funny because Counter-Strike was my main game, and then I would sprinkle in some variety at the end of my stream. And I kind of approached it like, hey guys, like I know you're here for Counter-Strike, and that's cool and all, but like, hey, I'm gonna keep the stream on for a little bit and play this game I really want to play. It's a weird game. It's nothing like Counter-Strike, but if you want to stick around, cool. And that game actually ended up being The Binding of Isaac. At the time, you know, not many people knew it, and it was just kind of this weird game. And funny enough, everybody started sticking around and loving that so much that eventually Binding of Isaac became my main game, and I started to get off of Counter-Strike and stuff like that. So, you know, it's an ever-evolving thing. There was a time where I was super into Overwatch, which is the dark days of the stream. Let's not talk about that. There's a
Why do you say that? Because now you say dark days. I gotta ask you.
No, it was just like it's always a thing I talk about. Like, oh, when I played Overwatch, no one was here. Like it was just like this, you know. It just was really bad for my stream. I don't think Overwatch works, but I was so into it, so I kept playing it. And then I got very into PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Played a ton of that. That was my main game for a while.
How did that do for you?
I think it did really well.
Yeah.
I had some of my funniest, best moments I think I've had on stream, because you know the squads in that game can get really entertaining and fun, and I just love games obviously that you could play with some friends, and also solo was like fun. Like it's rare when you find a game that you could kind of do both in and enjoy it. So yeah, pub was my main game for a while. Got a little bit into Fortnite. I was kind of early on the Fortnite wave, which probably not great. I kind of got off Fortnite like around the time where it was like really exploding.
What made you stop playing Fortnite? Just didn't enjoy it? I just got tired of it. I mean, I've gone back to it recently a little bit and dabbled in it, and it's still a really fun game. And there's a lot of like not so great press around it, but at the end of the day, I think it's a really enjoyable game. And aesthetically, I love the way it looks. So it's got obviously a lot of things going for it, but at this point now, when it's almost too oversaturated, I think, to jump back in now. Well, but, I think what's super interesting in particular with your stream is your community, because you know you talk about playing all these different games, but I feel like your community is extremely tight. And even like I joke about it in a non-stereotypical way, but I forget what PAX was, but I was at a PAX and you were streaming live on the floor, and there's all these people around, and a lot of them were there for you. But it was funny. I could pick out the ones. I'd be like, that's part of Jay's community. This person's part of Jay's community, because it's just, there's like a certain vibe, and I feel like you've really set the tone and curated a vibe of like everyone's super friendly, but you just know like that's like a member of the Wolf. It was such a it was an eye opener for me that it's like you have, so here you are, which is I want to ask you, it's a bizarre situation anyways. You're streaming standing up with like a bunch of people around you.
Yeah.
But then it was like they all like just all had like a similar vibe. But
Right.
but so can you talk about that, like community wise, how you feel like you've built that community that's so tight knit and have a lot of similar traits between everyone there?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But my stream is completely community driven. Completely. Like there is a set group of like 100 to 200 people that have been with me for almost 5 years, and they share resubs that are 50-month plus, like often, which is like not a usual thing.
No.
I mean, obviously everybody has their people that stick around for a while, but like the majority of the people in my stream are 2-year plus, 3-year plus. Like that's the majority. And it's an insanely tight knit community. And they, it's weird because like I don't pull a ton of viewers, but like I go to a convention, I say I'm going to this convention, and like there's always a huge group of them that come out and rep the Wolves clothing and just are just so, I don't know, they're just, everybody's so tight. Like we've had 2 couples. We've had 1 couple that's already gotten married. We have another couple that just
met through your stream. I just want to make that.
Oh yeah. They met through my stream completely. It was 2 mods at the time that met and now are married. And then we have 2 more that just met, and we have honestly another couple that just went to Disney together that met through the stream. And there's friends, there's lifelong friends. There's two guys that are moving in together with their 2 girlfriends, so all 4 of them are living in a house. Like it's like nonstop. It's crazy. It's just that to me is more important than anything I've done stream wise, is create relationships, with other people. And like I don't know, it's all good, right? The community is all good, but it's almost like a little bit of like, it's so tight that it's like, I feel like when people come in, they're like, what the hell? Like someone just said to me, who's like, how do you know all these people's names? Like this information. Someone literally said to me yesterday in stream, how do you know all these people's names and all this information about, like, how do you remember all this stuff? I'm like, well, 1, it's my job. 2, they've been around forever.
And you've met a lot of them too.
I've met a lot of them. Yeah, hung out with a lot of them, and it's like it's crazy. It's I don't know. Everybody always says, "Oh, my community is the best, the tightest," but I truly believe mine's the tightest. I think it's like insane how much.
What do you think you've done to like to make that happen? Or what do you do? Was it something conscious you did in welcoming people, or is it something that was important to you? Like, how did you translate that from being a streamer? Because there's streamers out there with communities, but like you walk in yours, it's a little bit different. It's like
Well, I think I look a little bit different than most streamers. Like, I mean, obviously we have like Tim, who has tons of tattoos and stuff like that, but I think there's like, I care about my style and like the clothes I wear and the tattoos, and I really am passionate about some music. Used to be into hardcore music, now like some of the hip hop stuff. And I think there's like this group and this niche of people that like enjoy that type of music, care about how they look and the style that they wear, the clothes, but also love video games and watch Twitch. And I think there's this weird like niche kind of like group of people that symbolize with all that. And I think after, a year or 2 of kind of thinking about why this happens or why this is happening with the tight-knit community, I think that's the only thing I could, come up with, is that it's maybe just a unique stream experience, more so than just, just
a webcam in the bottom of the left corner. Yeah. So for people that don't know, if you watch one of Jay's streams, like stylistically, you're like, I never seen this before. Like I remember, maybe a year or so ago when you had the wave overlay. Like you see a lot of stuff on Jay's stream aesthetically that you don't see anywhere else. And it's, people are like, oh, did Jay hire a designer? No, you design everything, And so I think, I think that's super unique. And I think another really unique thing you do, which, I want to ask you more about is I don't know how often you do it, but I don't know if it's every season, but Jay designs clothing and then like merch, but it's not like, hey, logo on a t-shirt, on Teespring or whatever, can you
Yeah.
talk about that and where that idea came from and what your process is for?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't call it merch. I call it more like clothing, or like.
Yeah, I look at it like a clothing company, 100%. I sometimes label it as merch so people can connect it to the stream and stuff, which is cool. Like I want it to be both. I sincerely want it to be looked at as merch and as a clothing company. I just want people to be able to feel comfortable wearing the clothes out and it not scream video games and it not scream Twitch because as of like last year or 2 years ago, watching Twitch wasn't cool until Drake streamed on Twitch. It wasn't cool. It's just how it was. And then, now it's a little bit different, but still like, I want to respect like, what people wear. And I don't want to put URLs on it or usernames or, like stuff like that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the style of your
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. There's not the style of your stream.
It's not the style of my stream, and I always say I would never sell something that I wouldn't wear, and so I just try to keep it as clean, as vague, as cool as possible, and it's been a huge part of my stream as my clothing, and it's something I'm super passionate about. And in high school, I had a clothing company, and it's just things that I always wanted to do, and it's this vehicle has driven the success of me selling clothes, which is super important to me and really cool. And it's always humbling to like drop something and have people be excited about it
and it sells out. And it sells out.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it for you. It sells out.
Yeah, it usually does. I do keep it limited. So, it's not I'm not a warehouse here. I can't hold a ton of stuff. So I buy a certain amount of things, and once they sell, they sell. And I never reprint. I never make the same thing again. I have people talking about the floral shirt that I made 3.5 years ago. I still don't reprint. It's just, if you were there for it, you were there for it. And that's cool. But
why don't you reprint?
As a designer, I don't want to. I want to move on to the next thing. That thing is now in the past. And if you were at the stream 3 years ago and you're like, this is cool, and you bought it, that's awesome. But like now, we're on to this one. But you fast forward a couple of years and you're like, hey man, I wanted that hat. It's like, well, if you're here now, you get the hat. It's just, I just think it's a cool thing because it almost symbolizes a certain time in the stream. And I do that as well with my branding on my stream. The waves were awesome. I love the waves that I had in the overlay, right? But like I moved on from it, and there's a reason, because people can symbolize the waves with a certain time when I was playing pub, or like look back on it as almost different eras and kind of always pushing forward type thing, never dialing back.
It's kind of weird. It's unique. I'm just now kind of thinking it this way, that like each era of your stream is like a different album cover. Like,
that's how I look at it. Yeah, that's 100% how I look at it, for sure. Yeah.
How do you know when it's time?
Evolutions.
Yeah. Like, how do you know when it's time?
The Kanye evolution.
Like to.
I don't. It's when it's a feeling. I've come into this year kind of thinking like people know the brand, know the W, know the vibe of the brand. And I've come into this year not really saying like, oh, here's a rebrand, I've kind of just trying to evolve and always grow. Like it's almost like a fluid process where we're not set anywhere, it's just always evolving type thing. And as a graphic designer, that's super exciting. Like I love that stuff.
So that's cool how you've been able to kind of work that other passion into your show and your stream. But you talk about evolving. So now, since you've been at this since 2012, 2013, what do you feel individually is the biggest way you've changed as a content creator over that time?
I think the biggest way I've changed is definitely confidence in it, because I started as a person. So growing up, I had a good group of friends, right? And we would make videos. I would always be the guy behind the camera. Always. I own the camera, because I loved, video and editing and stuff. So I was the one that owned the camera, always behind the camera, always shot the action, edited the action, and stuff like that. So I never looked at myself as the person in front of the camera ever. So when I first started streaming, it was kind of like it shook me a little bit to like be like the one in front and be the one, you know, running the show. So I think it would be confidence, because when I started, it was just I was winging it, of course, you know. And then I feel like I fell into something that could be sustainable, you know, entertainment wise, and like, you know, be excited to stream and be confident about my ability to entertain people and keep people around in the stream and stuff like that. So I think it's confidence for sure.
Where do you think the confidence came from?
Definitely doing it, but more so I think the community definitely gave me the confidence. When people keep showing up to your stream and, you know, reach out on Twitter and say, when's the next stream? Like little things like that are huge, man. Like people don't realize how much streamers appreciate, you know, like, when's the next stream? Oh, that was a great stream. Just simple little things like that. Stuff like that, like in someone's early stages of streaming, will build their confidence. And if you have confidence, then you could do whatever you want, you know, on stream and push it as far as you possibly can.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people feel the same way. It's like you don't know, like same way how, you know, you may send a message to someone and you just appreciate what they do. And I think that stuff goes a long way, man, just like you said. And even like, yeah. I mean, you've been doing it for 6 years. We've been both doing it about the same time. Like I appreciate it the same now as than I did back then. And I know you're the same. But
1,000.
But in terms of evolution, so now here we are, 2019. What's next for you? Like, what are you focused on now, you know, in this upcoming year? Where's your energy going?
Yeah, so obviously, I definitely have different things that I'm doing other than streaming, and you know, you can look at that like not a good thing, because streaming takes so much and takes so much energy, and especially with, you know, trying to keep the stream fresh graphically and game wise and stuff like that. So you do want to give it a lot of attention if it's your full-time gig. But I have other things going on as well this year. Obviously, the Wolves clothing that we talked about. One of the things I want to do this year with the clothing is to get into some sort of thread and needle. Like nothing crazy, but like at least something thread and needle.
What's that mean?
It means like actual clothes, like building up a sweatshirt, like thread and needle, like picking a hoodie pocket, you know, threading on different colored maybe cuff sleeves, like custom clothing type.
Got it. Versus now you'll buy the blank product and put your okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, right now I'm just buying wholesale and then printing on it, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to make it a goal this year to do something thread and needle, whether it's a custom hat, a custom hoodie, whatever it is, joggers that I'm able to customize. I don't know.
Really
but
quick,
definitely
as someone myself and maybe people listening, what does it take to do that?
Yeah, that's
are you learning
that's the trick.
Yeah, are you
that's
learning
the
that?
Trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at some stuff online, obviously, but it's more of it's a production issue rather than a creating issue. The creating, I can, if I, you know, fondle together some stitching and embroidery things and stuff like that, I'll be able to swing it. It's the production of like, how can I make 30 or 40 or 50 of these? But the idea would be to do something like that and then print on top of that as well, custom tag it, and then sell it like as is.
Yeah.
But so, you know, there's obviously a ton of hurdles, and I think a lot of the thread and needle stuff is who you know, and there's people that have obviously warehouses that can pump out certain stuff like that. So it's about that, and that's the biggest hurdle, is finding someone to do stuff like that with. But you know, I have mock-ups and designs of things that I've wanted to thread and needle before and never thought possible. So if I could hammer out one of those things this year, that would be a success, and obviously make more.
I'm sure your community,
cool clothes, period.
I'm sure they wouldn't be excited about that at all.
Yeah.
Know, custom J thread and needle plus the custom is, that's sweet. All right, so you got streaming, getting your first thread and needle piece of clothing.
And then I'm also working on a app/game that's been in development for almost a year. It's just me and my buddy Mike, who is a developer. I designed and created it. There's been pivots, obviously, there always is, and it's a huge undertaking, like way over our heads type thing, but it's also a really fun thing to fall back on and design in my free time or spare time, or I've actually done it on stream as well, and people really are invested in it.
Can you talk like quickly about like the design of the game, or is it still like super early and it's under wraps?
It is super early,
Yeah.
but the idea is it's called Wicked Wristers, and it's a hockey based game, and it's going to be like a player building simulation with RPG elements type thing. And I think there's going to be now, instead of simulation gameplay, I think it's going to be a card game mechanic.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be like almost like a Slay the Spire type thing, wrapped and shrouded in a sports hockey game, where you kind of, instead of fighting bosses and monsters, you're fighting teams to get through to the playoffs, and you build up your character and stuff like that to get different cards.
That sounds sweet.
A lot is on. Yeah, no, it's like, I think in theory it's great. It's just, you know, in execution it needs to be great as well. But we have a lot down on paper. A lot of the art is like out there and like pretty much wrapped up. But yeah, there's a lot to be done with that. But that's one thing I'm working on as well. And also have this idea of a YouTube channel where I do unconventional top fives in sports. Completely different from gaming. It's something that I've worked on. I've already done one of the videos for it. It's something I want to get like 6 or 7 videos done and release them on a weekly basis and call that done for the quote unquote season. So I have a lot of that written. I wrote scripts for it. I have like 2 or 3 videos completely written and done. 1 video's edited and done. It's voiceover stuff, just non-gaming, just something completely different, which is good. Like, I know it's stretching my things that I'm able to do by adding these things to my plate, but it's also good to look at something that isn't a video game, or that isn't streaming, or that's completely different, that isn't live, that's a voiceover, that's written, that's scripted. I feel like I've learned so much doing it. So, and maybe take some of those skills to streaming, you know, somehow.
I mean, so you got a lot going on. One quick follow-up on the app and game. What do you think? I mean, I know timeline's super early. What do you think you're missing any key pieces or people in the team to push this thing along? If you'd say, hey, Dan, if I had this, it would move the timeline way up. Yeah,
I think 1 other developer and 1 other designer. And if we have a team of 4, I think it would double the speed on this thing. It's just, I commit as much time as I possibly can to it, but it's not as much as I want to. So it's a little tough bringing people on because, you know, I'm so all over the place. So, but yeah, I mean, it would definitely speed it up. I mean, right now we're probably looking within the next 2 years. If we add some people, maybe in the next year and a half type thing.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. You got a lot going.
Yeah. I know.
That's good though. I mean, but it's unique because it's all like so different, but it's all so you know, as someone who's gotten to know you over the past couple of years, like I know you're super into the Devils and you know everything. I know you like it just seems like you, everything that you're passionate about seems like you now got a hand in it, which is cool. So I appreciate you coming on, Jay. Can you tell people the best place to find you, keep up with you, watch your stream? How can, you know, people stay in touch with you?
Yeah, Twitter is at WLVSAtMyDoor. So it's not Wolves at my door. It's WLVS at my door. That's the best way to stay connected online and offline when I'm streaming, when I'm not. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And then, on stream, I'm doing 2 to 7 basically every day.
Eastern Standard Time,
except for Wednesdays and Saturdays now.
Okay.
Well, after football season.
And then when people tune in, what can they expect to see you play roughly?
Yeah, so recently it's been Rocket League every day. I've been starting at 2 p.m. grinding some Rocket League for 2 to 3 hours. It's kind of harkening back to like when I used to play Counter-Strike. I had like this goal of like, let's level to this rank, and now I'm kind of getting that vibe back, which is awesome because I think when you have a goal, it keeps people invested and it keeps me invested. You know, I want to rank up to this certain level, so I've been grinding Rocket League every day for like 3 to 4 hours, and recently been playing Sea of Thieves again.
Oh, sweet.
Which has been a ton of fun. That game is really fun. When it's good, it's like really good. And I think it's been very entertaining, and can't wait to get back at it.
Cool. Jay, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to keeping up with you in 2019, and still got to get you on the show for some Tarkov here soon, man.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And if you're listening, I'll have all the links to Jay's stuff in the description below so you can keep up with him. And, on Twitter, we'll blast all this stuff out. But Jay, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah. Thank you.